everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Noor. Lovely to see all of you guys again. So it's the end of April, which means I am doing my April wrap up. I feel like for this month I kind of have a reading slump. I wasn't really enjoying reading as much as I usually do. Towards the second half of the month I just feel sluggish, unmotivated. I don't even know why, but for some reason I just don't feel like reading, so I read very slowly this month. I'm still pretty happy about it because the books that I read are really interesting, and some of these books I want to share with you guys and recommend you guys reading. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the April wrap up. So the first book that I read this month is The Nightingale by Kristin, and this is a book that sets in World War II and is in the perspective of two French women. And these two French women are sisters. The elder sister is already married and she's living in the countryside, and one fine day her husband was being called to war and serve the army, so her younger sister has to travel from Paris all the way to the countryside to accompany the elder sister and her child. I really like Kristin writing. I feel like Kristin really did a great job in The Nightingale. She writes mostly love stories, so you can expect some kind of love story in The Nightingale. And if you are the kind who doesn't like to read World War II that has love story, then this might be a little bit too mushy for you. I also learned a lot from this book, especially about the woman resistance during that period of time. I don't read a lot of that, and I find it very fascinating when I get to know something new and when I get to find out more concentration camps that is at that period of time. I especially love the characters in this book. They are all very strong women. It really portrays the woman's strength during that period of time, and it only shows that, well, in war it doesn't have to be only the males going to war and literally fighting, but also the woman that stayed behind taking care of the children that are also fighting during that period of time. So I really enjoyed this book. I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend if you are into World War II and if you want to have a little bit of different take in World War II, especially if you want it to be a little bit more love story or just interested in a perspective of women in France. I highly recommend you guys this. I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot from this. The next book that I finished reading this month is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brönte. The reason why I have plastic cover on it because this is the newer edition of the Penguin English Library, and hence the feel of this is very cardboard-ish. I hate that feeling, so I have to wrap it with plastic. I cringe every single time my nails go across the surface. It's annoying. Either way, what can you do, right? Jane Eyre is basically a memoir sort of story, and it tells the story of Jane Eyre and how she grows up when she was little all the way until she goes to boarding school and what happens after that. I've never read anything from Charlotte Brönte, so I was really surprised that I actually enjoyed this. I was kind of scared that it might be a little bit too dense for me, but turns out it wasn't. It was really smooth, although there are certain parts where the story could be a little bit dialogue heavy, so you know, there's two people talking and that's just that, so it can be a little bit boring in that sense. There aren't a lot of characters, so it's really easy to follow who is who and what they're doing. I especially love Jane Eyre as a character. She is very strong-willed, very independent, and it's very different if you talk about women at a period of time. Towards the end, it's a little bit annoying because one of the characters have a different kind of English accent, so it's very hard to follow and it just gets annoying for me. But if you just cancel that out, then the whole book is superbly interesting. I do love the gothic theme in this book, although it's not a lot as compared to Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I feel like that gothic theme really makes it a lot more interesting. I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. So after that, I read House Rules by Jodi Picoult. I'm glad that I gave this a chance, and I'm glad that I read it because I really loved it, and it solidifies the reason why I love Jodi Picoult. This is a story about this boy who has Asperger's syndrome, syndrome. And if you're wondering what Asperger's syndrome is, it's a kind of personality disorder, and it's very similar to autism. They are very, very, very sensitive. They have extremely high IQ or extremely low IQ. So even a crush of paper, it would just tick them off. He was being charged guilty for the murder of his tutor, and the reason why he was being charged guilty is because when he was interrogated, he doesn't look people in the eye and he starts to fidget, and he is known to be a wise ass basically, and that is very common for people with Asperger's syndrome. They don't look people in the eye and it's very uncomfortable for them to have a conversation, and they like to speak things that are very factual and they don't kind of do small talk. So the police kind of suspect that, hey, maybe he is the one who murdered this tutor, so he was being charged as guilty, and that's when the whole story kind of happens. If you know Jodi Picoult's story, or if you have read anything from her, you would know that it will always start with a problem and then a lawsuit happens and then they will go to court, and that's kind of what I like about Jodi Picoult. It's very law and order kind of book. Yeah, and Jodi Picoult likes to write things that deals with your morale. I feel like this book is really, really well done, especially in terms of research in Asperger's syndrome. I mean, I am not an expert in Asperger's syndrome. I don't know all of these things, but whenever I read something from Jodi Picoult, I will always learn something from her stories. And through House Rules, I learned a lot about Asperger's syndrome. I learned what is Asperger's syndrome and how our kids or people with Asperger's syndrome are affected with the world, and how is the law dealing with people with Asperger's syndrome, and it's just very, very informative. I love the characters in this book. There's a lot of perspective. I feel like it's very easy to identify the characters in this book because all the characters have their own voice, their own tone. Truly, truly enjoyed this book. I really highly recommend you guys reading this if you are into personality disorder, if you are keen to know a lot more about people with autism or Asperger's. So I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. You guys should check it out. It's very different from all of her other books. It also has a little bit of the My Sister's Keeper kind of vibe. And if you have read that from Jodi Picoult and you really enjoyed that, then you should pick this up. So following on, I finished up reading Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Okay, this thing is really shiny. So, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open the dust jacket. Yes. I finished up Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This book contains 2 of his stories. Another one is Through the Looking Glass. First of all, I'm going to say this, and I hope you guys don't kill me. I don't really enjoy Alice in Wonderland. One is because it's very, very peculiar, very, very weird. And I know that is supposed to be the essence of the book, the peculiarity, the weirdness of the book, the whole trippiness of the Wonderland. And I know that Lewis Carroll is a mathematician, so when he writes Alice in Wonderland, there are a lot of symbols that goes into Alice in Wonderland. And also he wrote Alice in Wonderland when he is kind of high. I think I read it somewhere, so hence the book is a little bit trippy. However, I don't really enjoyed it, and now that I read it, it kind of brings me back to when I was a child. And the reason why I don't pick up Alice in Wonderland or never finished Alice in Wonderland is because of the weirdness and the peculiarity and the trippiness in the story, which makes me really uncomfortable. So I do enjoy it. I give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I do enjoy it. It's a very interesting book for children because it plays with their imagination. It could be enjoyed by children and adults. It's a classic. Everybody loves it, but it depends on your cup of tea. And to me, I feel very uncomfortable with it. So I don't think I will be reading Through the Looking Glass. I am not sure. What do you guys think? If it's anything as weird as Alice in Wonderland, then that might hinder my interest to read Through the Looking Glass. Yeah. However, I do really enjoy the movie edition of Alice in Wonderland, especially the Disney one, the one where Mia and Johnny Depp is in that movie. I really like that movie. I find it less trippy and more gothic because it's Tim Burton. So I guess that is okay for me, but the story is just weird. I don't know. I get uncomfortable. So I don't know. It just depends on whether or not you like it, whether or not you're comfortable with it. After Alice in Wonderland, my reading slump starts to come in like a dark cloud. So I decided to read a non-fiction because non-fiction is always the best thing to read when you're in a reading slump. You don't have to put so much emotions in it. It's very factual. So I like that about non-fiction. So I went on to read Into Thin Air by Krakauer. Into Thin Air is his personal account of the May 9th, 1996 Everest accident. He was there along with a couple of people as a journalist and also a client to write about the commercial expedition that was very popular at that point of time. He talks about everything from the beginning of his trip all the way towards the end and the aftermath of the whole accident. I feel like this is very informative. Of course, it's Krakauer, so whatever he writes is really informative. I like the way he writes mainly because he put in a lot of research and a lot of thought whenever he writes his books, and he did all the interviews with the people that survived the accident and what actually happened and what are the things that could actually prevent the accident. He talks about human strength, about humans' interest in climbing Everest, and what is it that people have in their minds when they want to climb Everest. Climbing Everest or climbing mountains is not just a risky sport. You don't just do it just because of the fun or the adrenaline or the risk. It takes a lot of thought to climb up the mountain. It takes days to climb up the mountain. It takes all your energy to climb up the mountain. So he kind of discusses that in this book, and he kind of questions what is it that humans have or that people have in their minds when they want to climb Everest. What is this obsession that they have when they want to climb Everest? This book has made me not interested in climbing Everest. Not that I want to. Really made me think about what it's like to have a dream and what does it take to pursue that. Although it's not climbing Everest, but it can be translated to many things in life. Yep, I truly enjoyed this. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really love Krakauer's writing, and I am very eager to go and hunt all of his other books right now. And last of all, I read Marley and Me by Grogan. This is the last book that I read this month. My reading slump just got crazy, so I decided just to pick this up because it's a story about a dog. So no, you can never go wrong. Essentially, this story is about how Marley is involved in this author's life. Grogan is a columnist for a newspaper. It really made you think about what is it like to have a pet and how much do you want your pet to be involved in your life. Like anything else, when you have a pet or when you adopt a pet, that pet is essentially going to be a part of your life. He or she is going to be a family member in your life. So with regard to that, you have to treat that animal or that pet just like you treat your family members. You have to take care of the pet's needs. So it comes to food, water, even medical expenses. It makes you think that having a pet is a big commitment and whether or not you are going to be ready to adopt it. So I really enjoyed this book. It's a very heartwarming book, and I really fell in love with Marley, although towards the end I cried a lot. So I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. I truly enjoyed it. I just want to hug Marley. He's such an adorable dog, and it made me think of my pet cat Snugs and how much she is important in my life and how I would feel when she's no longer in the face of the earth. I think I'm gonna cry. Share with me at the comments down below if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them, and if you enjoyed them, then leave a comment down below. And also share with me at the comments down below what you have read this month, whether or not you have a good reading month. I did not really have a great reading month because of the slump, but it happens to the best of people, and it's bound to happen when you are always reading. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed watching this video, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to subscribe. And if you want to watch more videos from me, then you go do that. You go do that right now. Click the subscribe button right over here. I think it's here. Okay then, I will see you guys in my next video. Chill out. And also share with me in the comments down below if you share with